Well, hopefully I'm live. Let me go over to Facebook and check this out. Oh, yeah, there we are. Oh, good. Here is live here. And go over to my actual big page. Oh, I am live. Perfect. Okay. So let me go back over to the Metaphysical G and make sure that we are live. We are live. Okay. And hopefully everybody can hear me. Okay. Um, so, okay, here we go. Hey, everybody. It's been a long time since I've used Be Live, so hopefully everybody can hear me and hopefully everything is, hopefully everyone can hear me and hopefully this is coming through loud and clear. It's hard to tell because I can't hear myself. Obviously, I can hear myself, but I can't tell if everything is copacetic inside of Facebook, so hopefully it is. If you are coming over from Instagram and say hello, please. And if you are coming over or forgot to tweet about it, well, I mean, there's only so many things a girl can do, right? Before she just has to get on here and do her thing. So welcome to Friday. It's a relationship room on Friday. It says starting this new in the new year 2019. Every Friday, I will be here talking about some kind of relationship issue. This is kind of the soft opening for those of you who didn't hear anything about it. I'm kind of testing the waters. These videos will be up on YouTube. So if you haven't subscribed yet to my YouTube channel, go over there and do so, please. Also, if you haven't found me on Facebook, I'm on Facebook. And I'm also on Instagram. And I'm also on LinkedIn. So I'm in a lot of places. So welcome to the first Friday Relationship Room. And today we're going to chat just briefly. I don't want to hog your Friday afternoon at 4:30 here on the East Coast where it's getting dark. I'm not really a fan of winter, which if you've followed me long enough, you already know, so I will not belabor the point. But today's Friday Relationship Room is all about the 3 questions to ask before you say I do. Before we jump into that, I want to just take a few minutes to talk about Fear to Freedom course. Sorry, I've got lots of notes here and there, and I'm just wanting to make sure that I'm getting everything in. So this is a chance for me to tell you about Fear to Freedom course very briefly at the top of this, and then I'll get into the real meat of this, which is, there are 3 big questions that everyone should ask before they say I do, and we don't ask them, and we're afraid to ask them, and it drives me crazy because I hear the stories of women who are saying some really important and powerful things about why their marriages are ending. And they're in those stories, what I hear are the seeds that got planted way back when they first got married, and they probably could have seen some of what happened, but we're just too afraid to ask the hard questions because we think in the beginning it's all about the wine and roses, and it's also about sometimes the bitters and the orange peels. So all that to say, let's chat about that in a moment. So what is Fear to Freedom, and why on earth do you need a divorce strategist if you're getting a divorce? Can't you just hire an attorney? Well, of course you can. But here's what your attorney cannot do for you. Your attorney doesn't have time to care about your mental mind state. All they want you to do is not run over your ex with your car, basically. Don't burn the house down. Don't try to take out, the ex-spouse. Don't do anything silly that will get you that will land you in jail or in contempt of court. Other than that, their focus is on getting you the best deal that they can out of what they have to work with, out of whatever you bring to the table and whatever your ex is bringing to the table or trying to hide from the table. So your attorney's job is some whole hand holding, but it's not mindset work. Your attorney's job is not to get you over the guilt that comes from filing for a divorce because it's just time. Your attorney is not designed to help you figure out the deep, kind of landmines that have been planted through the course of a bad relationship that you need to get out from underneath and not step on so you can get on with your life. Their goal is to get you the best deal. A divorce strategist and planner, my goal is to get you a better life. And that's the difference between just hiring an attorney and going on and having someone in your corner who really understands the mental game that is divorce, the physical game that is divorce, the metaphysical game that is divorce, the emotional game that is divorce, and the spiritual game that is divorce. Oh, and the economic game that is divorce. So when you think about, well, why on earth would people hire a divorce strategist? I'm actually not all that uncommon. I'm just a little more vocal about it. But the reason you hire one is to help you get the better life on the other side. And that means getting all these things in order and taking care of the mindset work, the mundane work, the answering the hard questions, but also answering the soft questions like, how am I going to make it? What am I going to do? How do I get from A to B when I haven't done A in such a long time? I've forgotten there was even a B to get to. Those are the kind of things your attorney can help with. And at some point, your girlfriends, your best friends, and even your parents just don't have the capacity to help you navigate actually successfully in the moment. Because in the moment of a divorce, everybody's emotional. Everybody's emotional. So that's the front end of, or I guess maybe the back end of marriage. But this particular talk is not about that. This particular talk is about the 3 questions that everybody needs to ask themselves before they say I do. Now let's talk about that. Hang on a second here. I forgot to turn my phone off. So I apologize if you heard that. If you didn't, then that's fantastic. But yeah, there we go. That's what I need to do. Okay, sorry, I turned the phone onto silent. Didn't mean to have that go off in the middle here. All right, so let's talk about the 3 questions that I want you. Oh, nope, sorry. And now I can hear myself. There we go. Okay, so there, that's what I want to do. Okay, I can actually pause this. This is why I need help. In the new year, I will be hiring help. Okay, so now I can hear myself again, and I don't want to hear myself. Thanks. Okay, back to us. So let's tackle question number 1. And so let me set this up. Let me preface this by saying marriage is still a multi-billion-dollar industry. We are still getting married in record numbers across the globe. Marriage isn't going anywhere. So for a lot of you who are afraid to think about divorce or the end of a marriage because somehow that invalidates marriage, it's not. We still believe in the fairy tale. We still want happily ever after. We are still seeking and pursuing marriage for business reasons, for emotional reasons, for sexual reasons, for family reasons. We're still getting married. And so even though the divorce rate is high, it's actually leveled off over the years, and people aren't getting divorced in nearly the record numbers. They're still getting divorced in record numbers, but it actually has leveled off because for a lot of different factors. Number 1, people are getting married later. Some people are choosing not to get married at all. And that's something that you want to keep in mind when you hear the statistics about marriage and families. And don't get me started on Tucker Carlson and his nonsense talking about men and married and women and whatever. But I digress, and I won't go there. We're getting married later, and some people are just choosing not to actually do the marriage thing. They're living together, building a life together, and simply not taking the vows. So the fact that marriage is leveling off has a lot of different factors behind it, and it's important to understand that. It's also important to recognize that for all the divorces that are happening, we are remarrying at just the same rate. So we still want to be coupled together in ways that make us feel good. So whether you're talking about your first marriage or your 5th marriage, and I'm not judging, I'm sure I'm not judging, let's talk about the things that might help you make the marriage more enjoyable for you, more likely to succeed, because that's really what we're going to talk about, and more likely to be advantageous. And I know it's hard sometimes to think about, you don't want to think about making marriage advantageous, but we do, because marriage is a series of cost versus rewards calculations that we make all the time. The benefits have to outweigh the costs, or we're just not going to do it. And even though we think, oh, well, in a marriage, it's all about compromise and cooperation. Yes, it is. As we calculate in our heads the benefits and the costs of that compromise or that cooperation, that determines how the outcome of that cooperative moment, or whether or not we're even willing to compromise. Because let's be very clear. We don't go into marriage and somehow subsume what we want. We go into marriage and we assume that the other person is going to give us what we want. Let me say that again. We don't go into marriage and subsume what we want. We go into marriage and we assume that the other person is going to want to give us what we want. Now, I don't care if your marriage is based on religion, if it's based on secularism, if it's based on nothing, if it's based on financial gain, or whatever the case may be. The bottom line is we all have an assumption that our partner is going to figure it out and want to give us what we want. And when that doesn't happen, we end up in a rocky road, a bad marriage, or really just a short-lived marriage, and it's over. Whether that's in 2 days, 2 weeks, 2 years, 2 months, or 20 years. When we feel as though our partner isn't going to give us what we want, we're done. So let's start at the beginning. What are the things that we need to know? And what are the things that we just need to talk about that would help our marriages start off on the right foot? And that might even have us going, gosh, we're just not on the same page. We're not on the same page. I don't want to do this with you because we actually don't have the same values like I thought we did. So there are 3 questions I think that are really important to ask of yourself and of your spouse to be before you buy the ball gown, lay down a mortgage payment on the engagement ring and or the set, rent the church or the entertainment center or the stadium, book the limousines or the cakes, write the prenups or not. And before someone blasts me about prenups and things of that nature, it's 2019. Everybody needs to be thinking about how to protect their assets, especially if you're getting married to the second, third, or fourth time. Okay, so let's tackle question number 1. The first question that you want to ask is, why do you want to get married? This is so simple. It's the simplest of the 3 questions, but it's the hardest one for people to actually answer without going into the fairy tale. If you think about how culture talks about marriage, it's still couched in very vague and flowery and positive kind of euphemistic terms, but we don't actually talk about why people should get married or why you should want to get married. And so you have to think about for yourself, why do you want to get married? You have to examine, why is it that at this point in my life, whatever age you may be, have I chosen to let go of my singledom and couple myself with this other person? This means that you're going to need to get beyond the bridal magazines, beyond the TLC shows, beyond the bridesmaids' dresses hanging in your closet or the groomsmen's outfits that are hanging in your closet. And you're going to want to examine what do you want beyond the pretty ring set? That's what I like to say. What do you want beyond the pretty ring set? Do you want companionship? Do you want financial security? Do you want to build something bigger than what you have at the moment? Do you want children? Especially with this person, things that you want to ask. Those are sub questions, which we could get into a whole other question about that. But the why you want to get married isn't just a thought exercise. It's actually something that you need to be able to answer in a way that makes sense. If you cannot articulate why you want to get married, then you probably shouldn't get married. You just shouldn't. And your why is personal and it's important to you, but it should also be important to the person who is either asked you to marry them or whom you want to marry. Your why is going to determine the whole tone of your marriage. It's going to determine how you act, what you think about, how you respond, how you argue, how you build, how you grow, how you break apart if that happens. Your why has to be something that you really believe in, that you can only get through this marriage. Because you can get companionship by getting a dog or a roommate or a friend with benefits or lots of really good friends. You can get financial security on your own. You can actually have kids all by yourself. So what is it about this particular moment that you want to get married? Why do you want to get married? And if you sit down and you talk about this, if you put away, like I said, if you put away the bride books and the TLC, Lifetime channel, Hallmark, card version of a wedding, and you actually talk about why you want to get married and you're able to articulate it, then you might find that what you are looking for can be met through marriage, and that's great. It could be met in other ways, but you still want to get married, which is totally fine. Or it can't be met through marriage, and you're setting yourself up for the downfall. I'll give you a really good example. A lot of people want to get married because they want to start a family. They have zero idea of what that actually means, and they don't discuss with their significant other what it actually means to start a family. When to start a family, how many kids do you want to have? Why do you want to have kids? I'm gonna step on a few little landmines here, but I'm gonna go ahead and step on them just a little bit. It's sometimes very heartbreaking to hear about women being pregnant and their spouse didn't really want them to get pregnant yet. They weren't ready. And if you haven't discussed this idea of timing and kids, you want to get married, you want to have a family right away, but maybe she wanted to get married, but she wanted to wait 5 years, or he wants to get married, he wants to wait 5 years. You gotta ask yourself, do your whys match up? Because if your whys don't match up, it's going to be really difficult and rocky from pretty much from the very beginning. So what's your why? Why do you want to get married? That is question number one before you say I do. Question number two, what do you want out of marriage at this time? What do you want? So your why, I want to start a family. So what do you want? I want kids in 5 years. I want a house in the suburbs. I want a 2-car garage and a white picket fence and a dog and a vacation in the Hamptons. And I want to be a stay-at-home mom or a stay-at-home dad. Like, what do you want out of this marriage at this time? And I really have to add the at this time part, because marriage is dynamic. It is going to change. You are going to change. Your significant other is going to change. So what you may want in year 1 through 3 may drastically change year 3 through 6 if you do have kids. Wouldn't it be nice to have had some kind of conversation? Because here's the thing. One of the complaints I get is that, well, but that's taking all of the mystery. I don't know what I want. Yes, you do. The myth that somehow we're not thinking about our relationships and what we might want and how we want them to go. And so I can't answer these questions. That's a cop-out. In point of fact, you can't answer those questions because you've thought about them. And I would challenge any person out there who says, I don't think about those kinds of things, so I wouldn't want to have that conversation because I can't answer them. Yes, you can. You may not want to answer them, but you can, because we live in a culture that swims in the mythos of relationship being the end-all be-all of life. We are all taught from a very early age that your goal in life is to get married and produce a couple kids. That's it. Anything else you do is just gravy, right? So we've thought about our perfect relationships. We've fantasized about our perfect mates and perfect spouses, unless we have just decided to be single, which is, can totally be the case. But for the most part, for about 90% of us, we've thought about what we want out of marriage. You can articulate what you want at this time. You may not want to, for fear that what you say may end up with you not getting to the altar. And then again, you need to go back to your why. Why do you want to get married then? If what you want at this time might prevent the person that you want it from giving it to you, then why do you want to get married? Why? And for the love, please don't say to me because I'm getting old, because then I have to hit somebody. Okay, so what is it that you want? You need to recognize that your expectations for going into the relationship on day 1 are going to be the thing that is either holding you all together by day 723 or tearing you apart by day 723. Expectations, hidden or otherwise, rule the relationship. And wouldn't it be better to have gotten your expectations out and up front? So if you marry someone with kids and they don't want more kids, and you didn't know that because you didn't really talk about it, you just kind of assumed, or they said maybe, possibly one day, don't you want to hammer that stuff out? Don't you want to know? Deciding, well, I'll change their mind is a recipe for ending up calling me a divorce strategist and asking, okay, so how do I figure out the best way to do X, Y, and Z? What are the steps that I want to start taking? What are some of the things that I can start doing to get my mind together, to get my heart together, to get my finances together? Understanding that the expectations that you bring into a relationship, whether spoken or unspoken, are actually what are driving the relationship is key to preventing those expectations from sinking the relationship. So that's the second question. Question number 3. What do you see your role as in the marriage? And again, the caveat here is at this time. Always put the parenthesis on the end. At this time, because roles change. Life changes. You marry as 2 single people or 2 parents of, or you marry in one role, but it's going to shift. So what role do you see yourself playing as part of this new couple? Now, I'm going to catch some heat for this. I'm going to take it like a big girl because I can do that. It is very often the case that we come into marriage assuming that we're going to play a certain role. We don't actually talk about what that looks like with the other person. And so the expectation that, I'm going to marry this person because he's going to be a great father to children and he's going to be a fantastic person to have babies with, may or may not be true if in his mind Being a father is just going to work and providing a paycheck. And that's the role that he wants to play, is just to go to work, provide the paycheck, but he wants no part of raising those kids, or vice versa. I just want to carry the baby, and I don't want to, but once the baby's here, I'm not interested. I'm not the maternal type. I have no interest in that. If you didn't discuss that before you got married, what do you think is going to happen in your relationship as you begin to bring the kids into it? Having that conversation may be hard and icky, but it's important to understand what the roles are that you intend to play and the roles that you just don't want to play. Division of household labor, big role playing action going on here, right? Your sex life. People get rigid about their sex lives because they are playing a role and they expect to play a certain role in a certain way, and that's it. What? Mm-mm. Just give me 1 minute. Just a moment.
My iPad to play games on there.
No, Grayson, I'm on the camera. You do not have to come in. You go back in there. Thank you. That's okay. You've got your iPad. Oh, here. I thought you took it. Here. I thought you had it. There you go. Okay. All right. You got the pause because I'm a mama. Sometimes you got to pause. Okay. So role expectations. Not discussing how, who's in charge of the checkbook, what role our finance is going to play, and who's going to make the majority of the decisions. Are we making them jointly and together? Are we making them separately? Do you keep your bank account and I'll keep my bank account and we'll have a joint one? These are questions that we need to answer. Young couples who are going into their first marriage, and they're maybe not necessarily as savvy yet sometimes about all the possible permutations that could happen in a relationship, they get really when I start to say things like, well, have you thought about keeping 2 separate bank accounts and then merging slowly, since you have lived on your own and you have, you've acquired some habits, some spending habits, some saving habits, some investment habits, perhaps, but you've acquired some money habits that may or may not be compatible. Have you talked about those? Oh God, no, we can't do that. We have to combine everything all the time, all up front. That's great until you have to start taking them apart, because it come to find out that for maybe one of you, the role of finances is to spend everything we got until there's nothing left to spend. And for the other, the role might be, no, I'm a saver. That's my role. My role is to literally fine tooth comb every part of our financial life, to looking for every penny that we can put aside for the house we want to buy, or the kids' college fund, or the new car. Like, we don't spend, we save. No, we don't save, we spend. Those roles do this. Having the conversation about what role you want to play in matters of finance, sex, housekeeping, who works when the kids come, who has to be the one to take the job that allows you to pick up the kids from daycare, who's going to be the person who cares for the elderly parents when they get sick, who's going to be the person. Those are important conversations to have, and people, we all know they're coming. This is the thing about these 3 questions that I think are so important. They're not rocket science, because we all know that they're coming. We all know the circumstances of life are going to come right into that marriage. As soon as you eat the last piece of cake and you send the last guest home and you sweep up the last little bit of confetti, life comes in and says, hey, knock, knock, guess what? She's pregnant. Now what? Did we talk about this? Did we talk about getting pregnant on our wedding night, or did we just decide to let the fates decide for us? And now that we're pregnant, okay, so are we going to buy a house? Are we going to stay in an apartment? These are questions that every couple can answer before they even buy the ring. And that's what I want you to do. Think about this the next time you are faced with the question of, do I want to get married? What, is he the one? Because I get a lot of those. Is he the one? Is she the one? Is this the right time? I'm ready. Have you answered the 3 questions? Why do you want to get married? What do you want out of the marriage? And what roles do you intend to play in the marriage? And if those 3 questions for you and those 3 questions for your significant other don't do this, you're off to a great start. You really are. And I salute you and I applaud you. But if you answer those 3 questions and you realize, we are worlds apart here on some really important things, then I would say put people like me out of business and pause and say, you know what? Let's think about this. You may still decide to get married, but you will walk into it with eyes wide open, heart wide open, and a better chance of surviving the landmines that come when you don't ask the right questions. Okay, so that is my 3 questions to ask before you say I do. I hope it's been helpful for you in your relationship walk. If you are, in fact, looking for help on understanding your 3 questions and what you want to get out of a relationship, not only am I a divorce strategist, I'm also a life planner, and I do mindset work for people all the time. And I would love to be able to help you figure out what it is that you want to do. If you're not ready to join Fear to Freedom, which is a 3-month commitment, it's a 3-week course, 12 weeks. It's a fantastic opportunity to work through a lot of issues that come with getting a divorce. Then you can book me privately on one-on-one consulting, and we can talk about it. In fact, pre-marriage counseling of the non-religious type is something I strongly, strongly encourage and suggest every couple consider before they say I do, or even before they buy the ring. Thank you so much for tuning in tonight. I really hope that you found some value. Leave me a comment if you would, and if you want to get a hold of me, my email is support@sashinmobley.com. Again, you can find me on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube. And if you want more videos, please check out my YouTube channel or my Facebook page, because all my videos are out there. And I talk a lot about mindset and relationship and everything to do with kind of making sure that you're living your best life. Because really, that's what we're here to do, is live our best life. All right, I'm signing off for this Friday night. Enjoy your Friday night. Enjoy the weekend. Have a fantastic early-ish winter weekend at the beginning of January. And I'll be back again to talk to you next week. Take care, everyone. Bye.